Welcome to Mick and the Psychic, where we leave no stone unturned as we explore all things outside the apparent physical realm.
There is no intent to teach or make you believe or disbelieve anything. It is just a safe space to listen and explore with us.
So for this next episode, you have permission to open your heart and mind as you join myself and Xavier on this deep dive into the unknown.
Okay, because when we dream at night, we transmit information, okay? This could be us transmitting it back to our home planets, our higher selves that might be a galactic council or something to that effect.
All right, I'm just going to jump straight into it. We're having no pre-chat to this podcast because everything that comes out of Charles Lowry's beautiful mouth are just gems of wisdom, kindness, or something really, really funny. So without taking all of that away from our listeners, I just push record from the start. This is an exciting episode because we got Charles back on. Yes. Because last time I was saying to Charles, hey, we didn't get time to talk much about aliens. And you've got a client that's obviously had a lot of experience, well, lots of clients that have had experiences with aliens, and they've drawn some, and I wanted to see them. And I think our listeners, or hopefully viewers on YouTube, if you're listening, YouTube this one, can see these images because they freak me out. Charles from Amante Moon, welcome back to the show. It's so great to have you. Yay, Charles.
Thanks for having me back. I love this. This is good. We get to play. Yes.
Yes.
Awesome.
That's what it's all about. So aliens are very special beings.
Mm.
And it's a really interesting term because I was contemplating it today and I really don't like the word aliens. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because of what does it actually mean?
Exactly. If alien is something that's foreign.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? You don't belong somewhere. And it's just like, so I was contemplating that today and it's like, maybe I prefer energetic beings. Does that make sense?
Beautiful. Well, we're aliens to other planets probably. So, you know.
Exie, you're on the money, love, because think about it like this. We came from alien stock.
Yes, we're all good. Cuzzy bros. Yeah.
Does that make sense? Because if you read stuff like this, my mind gets screwed with this stuff.
The Anunnaki Chronicles. That sounds like Zachariah Sitchin. Okay.
Zachariah Sitchin. So this is like the Anunnaki was supposed to have come to the planet 450,000 years ago because they realized there was gold here. The planet needed the gold, so they came and mined it. They brought their own, like 600 of their own folk down, but then they realized, not going to work. We need to create human beings, or we need to create some worker. That's probably the better word, worker on the planet. So they did. And these workers had to be created by the Anunnaki 450,000 years ago, but they couldn't procreate. And this was a problem. So this is how humans started. So ultimately, we are from alien stock.
Is this where some of the old, like you look at the old biblical texts talk about Adam, or the first man, right? Coming from the earth, coming from land. Is that like the whole idea that these beings, if they came here, they're like, hey, we need to create beings from this earth? Is it something where it had to be organic from here to survive here? Is that like where it's coming from?
Interesting concept. I have to be brutally honest, Michael. I've never read the Bible. For me, I've never been drawn to it, and I've never needed to read it.
I don't know if we can continue this conversation.
I've never read the Bible. We do the podcast together. Shush.
We'll do it, Exie. We'll do it. No, but I understand where you're coming from. Because
there you go.
Man was created for this environment, is what I've been. I don't want to say led to believe. It's the wisdom that I've been listening to. Okay, do you know what I mean? So man was created in this environment. What's actually happened is the religious powers that be then took what was happening with Adam and Eve and all of that sort of stuff, and then Noah with the flood, and created the biblical story behind it.
Yeah. But it's about but we're talking about origins of where this is from, not necessarily whether or not they're more right than them or they're more right than them. It's that they're the same similar stories that are coming through, right?
Yeah.
So perhaps, so maybe there is some weight towards it being alien and non-alien, but just to the planet. Because if we're from the planet as beings, maybe we're more terrestrial to this planet, and then they're from somewhere else, even if they made us.
It's a great concept, but let me push your mind from here to here.
Please.
Our soul comes from not this planet. So when we're born into the planet,
Yeah.
Our souls are coming from another dimension of time and space.
Yeah.
Does that make us aliens? Because I'm fulfilling this meat suit, I'm fulfilling this body, I'm here to have an experience, but my soul is not from this 3D earth that we call home.
Yeah. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
that's
regardless of
where
where we're on.
a lot of people, sorry, Exie.
Sorry, I interrupted you.
No, that's where a lot of people get confused because they think we are here. And yes, we live on this planet Earth, but we are of higher beings. We are
Yeah.
multi-dimensional beings that exist and create on this planet.
So if we're looking at levels of reality, so you've got the mind body experience, so you could identify with that and just be a person, or you could identify with something that is beyond that mind body experience, and perhaps you call that a soul or something else. Are you saying that, or have you heard anything around some of these other beings as having a soul themselves, or are they on that same soul level? Like, are there levels to this game for them as well as us?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Now, there's a lovely couple, and it escapes my mind, and I've watched them on YouTube, and they actually use kinesiology, and they use it as a level to tap into the consciousness of different galactic beings. So,
Right.
Have you heard of the Greys?
Yes. We've all heard of Greys, surely.
Yeah. So the
Right.
Greys.
Oh, the Greys. I thought you said grapes.
No, the Greys.
The
Greys
yes.
are like a low vibrational energetic being. Like, yeah, he's got grapes going on.
Yeah. Sorry.
No, but that's fine. You've got the Greys that sit at
Yeah.
a lower level. Then you're coming up to like the Lyrians and the Syrians and the Pleiadians and all the different levels. So this is, I'll have to try and find it for you, because they do like an hour show using kinesiology on what the consciousness and the soul evolution, or where these people are, where these galactic beings have evolved to in their environments. And it was a very interesting episode to watch, because it really opened your eyes. Does that make sense? So people have experiences. Sometimes you'll have people that have been like, they go to sleep at night and they can see themselves being taken to ships and all of that sort of stuff. What that says to me is their consciousness relates to the level of consciousness that's taking them. Their evolution is being taken to the same level. So it's happening on multiple levels at simultaneous times. We are beings on this planet, but I'm going to say this to you. My soul is not completely here. My soul's playing in many dimensions of time and space at once. Does that make sense? So I've seen myself when I've done a QHHT session being a galactic being on another planet.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I've had lives where we were hubby and I were like blue people. We were brother and sister kind of thing. But I suppose if you saw what we look like, you'd just say we're aliens.
Because that's the generic term
we don't
that
look
we
like
use.
humans. So yeah.
Yes, that's the generic term that we would use to indicate of non-human form. Does that make sense? I'm alien. I'm not from this realm, this world.
Yeah.
It's very out there. I love this. And the more you start scratching at the surface, the deeper it goes.
Yeah, for sure.
So I get clients, and I had a new client come in this last week, and the blue lights came in for her. So that for me is like the Pleiadian energy coming in for her. And I always say to my customers, not knowing where they are on a spiritual level, I say to them, do you talk to the stars? Do you see the stars at night? Do you connect with that energy? I'm always outside. She goes, when I'm in the country, Charles, I'm always just looking at the stars, talking to them. It's like, good, because you're from the stars. And when I see them come into a healing space, it's like, here you go. We want to offer you healing at a much higher level, much higher energy that comes from the sky. So I get that sort of stuff. And then in the QHHT sessions, I actually emailed you some pictures. I don't know if you've seen them.
I've got them. I'm going to throw them up. Do you want me to start?
If you'd like to. This was from one session, Michael. This was one session.
Gosh. Can you explain where these pictures come from? And look, for those just listening, just watch the YouTube, even if it's just for this one, because it's definitely worth it. So can you see that, Charles?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So this is all, I'm going to say this to you, Michael. This is all from one customer. Okay.
Okay.
This
Right.
is what we had in our QHHT session. So whilst this person was in hypnosis for a few hours, this is what came up. This was a centaur. The centaur is half human and half animals, usually like a horse. Now he has jobs to do. This one, see the it's like a UFO next to him with the moon and the orb in it. It's his job whilst he's playing in another dimension to protect these on the planet. Now, when we did the QHHT session, they were actually giving him the locations of these devices. Let's use that.
Okay.
On the planet. And what he now needs to do, and he understood this completely. So it wasn't if it was foreign, because he always had these thoughts. What he then understood he needs to do is meditate to either protect or connect with these energy centers to do what he needs to do. Does that make sense? Now, he was also advised that if these energy centers were at a location that wasn't, because one of them was on the bottom of an ocean, okay? He can't get to that one, so he can meditate to that one.
Okay.
If it was on a landmass, he was to travel to the landmass to help activate it, to help protect it, and do what he needs to do with it.
So he actually has to travel to different parts of this planet in order to meditate in those spots to do.
He can meditate from where he is in his location here, okay? But they said to him, it's more effective if you can be at the location because your connection is going to be stronger.
So it's like Zoom and relationships, yeah?
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's too hard at a long
You can do
level.
it, but
it's doable.
Save some time and energy.
Correct. But you have more impact if you're there.
Yeah.
So this was just one of the lifetimes that he had. And he totally understood it. He got it. And
he
goes,
understood
it.
Yeah.
How
See,
fantastic that he could, like, he's talented enough that he could create it too by memory.
He's a very
good.
creative soul who has traveled the world and is very well versed with the world. And he actually, this is AI, computer generated. So he put into the computer what he wanted to, because he could see it in his mind. And he got the computer to generate the image. And he said, Charles, this is exactly what it looked like.
Wow.
Great.
So
that's great.
He kept giving AI the details of what he was seeing. And then the more details he got, the better the AI could produce it. So I noticed as well, this centaur is wearing like a mechanical electronic vest. And like horns and that, or I think that might be his own horns, I presume, if he's a centaur. So just like a helmet. So it's almost like technology is a big thing, and the spaceship is crazy, crazy tech too, obviously.
Really cool,
so there's like some kind of marrying between technology and physical being to do spiritual stuff.
Well, what
in this picture at least?
Well, it's really interesting because this person that we did the session with, very highly evolved spiritually, so nothing is beyond his comprehension. Does that make sense? He's open. He's open to bigger concepts. So when we did the hypnosis, none of this was a surprise to him. All he could feel, though, was this amazing flow of energy through his body the whole time. This energy was intense. So when these images came up, this was one of them. He understood it. He got it. And like as you said, he's got protection in that vest, in that armor. That's his protection so that he can do things on multiple levels. Does that
From
make
something
sense?
Physical,
whatever it is. Sometimes I'm going to say this to you as well, Michael. Sometimes these vests are how the being, let's use that, breathes. It's how the being feeds. It's how the being exists. Does that make sense? Sometimes when I'm talking to a being, because that's what you have to sort of say, I'm talking to a being, this person's just having that experience. They say to me, oh no, we have consciousness. So what we can do is we can morph, we can change our appearance, we can change whatever. So they just change the external part of their body so that they can fit into whatever it is.
Amazing.
It's multiple, it's beyond worlds.
It's incredible. It's
really
incredible.
One.
Yeah,
really powerful one.
It's there's a lot in the imagery. It nearly looks like an image you would have of someone going to war. So statues where they would have horses and people on horseback in statues. How the horses were standing related to different things that they were putting across in battle, like what it meant for battle. So this one's got its like front left leg up as well, and the tail swooshing as well. So it's almost like that's like an active sign of is this some kind of warfare or?
He's preparing. This is preparation. Does that make sense? I'm getting prepared to make movement. I'm getting prepared to, and that's what the guidance was with this part of the session was, it's time for you now to start moving in this direction so that you can start doing more. And you're going to feel like this person was going to feel more, how do I put this? Connected themselves. They're going to feel more fulfilled themselves as they start moving forward with these meditations and connecting to these energy centers around the world as such. So that's what there was. There was a preparedness, and the tail saying, I'm getting confident with this, so I'm okay with this. And the left foot's getting, I'm ready to start taking steps in that direction.
Yeah. Amazing. Incredible. I wonder if the future is going to be just AI record sessions and then just has it like a video playing for people of what they might have seen one day, eventually in the future, with enough information.
It's interesting. There was another one that I sent you. I don't know if you got it.
I've got them all. I can flick through them. So
there was one of them because there was quite a few there, Michael. And this gentleman had such amazing there was so much detail. Okay, this is him in a suit. Okay, this is in another lifetime. This is him in a suit. And I said, okay, I when I do the hypnosis sessions, I start off very slowly. Okay, show me your feet. What do your feet look like? What does your body look like? So that they're comfortable with what they're seeing as well. So they showed him this as I'm in a suit. I'm in a shiny suit. And this was really interesting because it's like, I have to squeeze my consciousness, my soul into this suit, okay? The suit was his protection in this lifetime. Again, no food required. When they breathe, the air is their sustenance, okay? And it's the energy that they need to keep functioning every day. This energetic being, because that's the term I prefer to use, this energetic being was here and was getting ready to report to like a council of 12 or a bigger council about what's happening on the planet behind him. See, he's got the planet there. What this one does, travels the world, actually, that's the world so stupid, travels the multiverses to check vibrations of specific planets to see if they're ready to join interplanetary councils. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Yep.
So they're checking out what the vibration is on the planet. So, of course, me being like a little detective, I said to him, is Earth on one of these interplanetary councils? Are we, connected to that in any way, shape, or form? Oh, no, not at all. Our vibration is way too low. Our vibration seriously needs to rise. He said, you're still fighting each other. You're not in a collective space of peace, love, joy, or anything positive. He said, you're still it's like you're still, it's funny because I think of it like this. This planet's been here millions of years, but human beings have been here 35,000 years. So we're in our infancy. Does that make sense? We're still finding our way on this planet. So this is what this one does. Travels the cosmoses, travels the galaxies, checking in on planets, reports back to a council about, this planet's ready to go. Now, if planets are also at an evolutionary state or they're at a dying state, they will release these planets from these councils. So if your planet is not doing very well and your vibration's dropping, see ya, you're gone. So they make complete sense. And that's what this one does, travels around. And I think there was another picture of the ship that he was traveling in, because at one stage he was traveling through the sun. The sun is an amazing portal into other dimensions. And that's where he was traveling through the sun. Here he is, that's the ship, see? Going into the sun to travel to alter multiverses. So this is where it happens on a level. Does that make sense?
He looks like a badass auditor, really. It's like an universal energy auditor.
Yeah. And so far ahead of us energetically with how they propel these machines, how they do all of that sort of stuff, if that makes sense. So, but this was him, because this came up in the session. I'm actually traveling now through the sun to get somewhere else. And then he created this amazing image of the ship. So before we saw the being, now this is the ship traveling through the sun. And you can see how big in reference to the size of the sun that the ship is.
I think I've read a few times in different books and heard from different people about the sun when you're actually close, not actually being hot, or is it just that beings can just pass through it like it's not even an issue?
It's energy. It's
energy. It's energy.
Does that make sense?
We feel it as heat here, but it's like you could go through it. People live in it, I think. Yeah, I'm trying to remember the story.
There's so much there. There's so much, and being on this 3D planet, there's so much we don't know about it because we've never, we've got things going to the moon, things going to Mars. We've got Voyager 1 and 2 that have left our solar system. We've done a loop around the sun, but we've never landed on the sun. We don't know what it's like. We don't know what's there. So it's interesting. But this was his ship that travels through. So yeah, the sun's full of amazing energy. So this was a portal to him to go into other dimensions.
Right. So it's almost like harnessing the energy of a star to be able to
He didn't need
put
to
you in a
harness the
different
energy.
place.
The ship had the energy that he could just fly through it. So think of it like this. The sun is a tunnel through to another, like a wormhole into other dimensions of time and space, multiverses, all of that sort of stuff.
Oh, okay.
The concepts are out there. They are really out there. But what I really like about the QHHT session is you can't make this up.
Yeah.
People will come back to lifetimes on this planet and then they'll understand it. I had one customer actually take the time to research and found herself in England in, 400 years ago. They had records of this person existing. And she ran up to me and says, "Oh my God, I found myself. I'm so excited." Does that make sense? So when I come into situations like this, I truly believe that that's where I'm at. You've got to be broad. So this was a really interesting one. And then there was another one with the grasshopper. Did you see like the grasshopper?
Yeah. I'll get to that. Oof. Yikes. Crazy.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a crystal.
This was really interesting because the crystal was, it's not found on this planet. Okay. So the crystal is from another planet. Okay. And the crystal was brought here. So have you heard of Area 51 in North America?
Yes.
Okay, so lots of galactic beings have been in and out there. It's like a portal, it's like a gateway. A lot of beings have been invited by governments from around the world. Okay, so there is a communication dialogue. The public is not really aware of what's actually happening on a level with communication with aliens, okay, or higher energy beings. So this being was invited to come to the planet and brought in a crystal, and they were showing the crystal and the amazing properties of the crystal and how it can provide energy for the planet without having to, it doesn't need to do anything. It just, if you look at it, it's just glowing like this beautiful energy. Now, what actually happened to this being was it got taken to a remote location within somewhere on the planet. And the conversation was, "I'm still on your planet, Charles. I'm still here somewhere." And I said, "So is it a concern for you? Do we need to do something to help free you?" He goes, no, this is my purpose. This is what I need to be doing here. Okay, so I've brought wisdom to your planet. Hopefully good will come out of what I've brought to your planet. But that's up to the governments to then work out how are they going to disseminate the information. So this was him being like a praying mantis, like a beetle, and with wings and things like that. So this was very graphic, and this was really special because he brought the wisdom to the planet, and he came from the multiverses, but with love to help rise the planet, help raise the vibration on the planet with wisdom.
Okay.
This is where, Michael, this is where you get technology for these things. This doesn't just happen. Somebody says, "I'm going to make an iPhone today." No. Everything will come from galactic beings, okay? So Area 51 is responsible for a lot of medical stuff, technological stuff, iPhones, all of that stuff. It comes from galactic beings that are so far ahead of us that they bring us what we need to help us move forward.
At this time, because obviously they're trickling, if that's happening, they're trickling that information down.
So are they telling like the government or about those ideas, or are they like seed planting in our heads of people who are creative and want to create things? Are they dropping it into random? Because I think I like that idea. I think it was from one of Dolores Cannon's books that someone explained that they kind of sprinkle it out there as like dust, and it just lands, and whoever it lands in, whoever comes up with it first, but they put the idea in. Multiple people might catch it, and then it's see who gets. That's why things might get invented around the same time, but in different countries, and they're not sure who brought it out first. Because
and I agree 100%, Nixie. I agree 100%.
Yeah, I like
that.
So
the galactic beings bring it into the sphere. Think of it like that, and then it will come into. People might channel
through
it. They
consciousness.
Yeah, it comes into the consciousness, comes into the field. I haven't created this. Let's go. This is also how Beethoven, Mozart, all of these
Yes.
people created their classics because
Yep.
they were sitting there one day. It's like, what if I did this? They're getting guidance. They're getting guidance from higher beings, their higher source, whoever, their higher self, whoever it might be, to create these amazing pieces. So this is what's happening. So Exie, you're on the money, that it's dropped into the consciousness, and then whoever creates, whoever trusts, lets go. Also, it'll come to Area 51, to governments. You see the
right.
stealth bomber, you see that sort of stuff. So, information will come to Air Forces or whoever, and then they'll take what they need, and then they'll go and create something for themselves on a military basis or whatever. 100 years later, we'll get the wisdom in everyday life. Does that make sense? So it's a really interesting concept. So this beautiful galactic being brought this amazing crystal, because I said, is this crystal found on this planet Earth? And they said, no, it's not. And I was like, okay. So it was a very special crystal, a very powerful crystal.
So do we know who's got it?
No.
Oh.
And this is the thing, to protect us, to protect who we are, it doesn't surrender that type of information. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
Very
would that be
special.
its form, or would that be the form it came here as?
Yeah.
This is the form of the being, okay?
Yeah.
This is its natural state. So this is also how it's presented here, okay? And this is how it's presented wherever it is on the planet at the moment.
Got you. Okay. Yeah.
Now, these things don't have to just be like in a hypnosis session. Does that make sense? So this last week, I was training You Are Clairvoyant, opening people's third eye up and opening them up just to the possibilities of energy, okay? We finished this week. We did week 7. And at week 7, I'm asking my clients while they're doing, balancing the crown chakra or balancing the third eye, who's here with you? Who are you seeing? Who are you feeling? And they're saying to me, there's galactic beings in here. It's like, great. How do they feel? They feel really positive. They want to help. And it's like, this is good. This is a positive aspect. So you don't have to just be in hypnosis. You could be just in a state of, I'm open to receiving who's here. And then off we go.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, like, when you look at what hypnosis is, it's just quietening down the outside world and tuning in deeper. It's interesting. I found with clients where they've had beings from other places, let's say, don't know what they are, they have struggled to be able to communicate and said that they need the client to be deeper. And so I'll do another deepening process. And really all that is tuning more of the outside world out and tuning in deeper within yourself. So it's nothing scary. But I found that the depth of trance, which normally isn't very important with what I do, was important with being able to communicate with other beings. So have you found that kind of depth of trance has been important for people to connect with these beings? I mean, you do QHHT, so I guess they're already in a fairly deep trance with that anyway, aren't they?
They get into a deep trance, so the induction can be really long.
Yeah.
But what I really find really interesting, this is a really weird concept, but I'm going to explain it to you. What usually happens is when the customer needs to go deeper, their higher self says, I need to go to the toilet. So they get up, they go to the toilet. This is them lying down in a queen-size bed with a blanket over them. They get up and go to the toilet. And my hypnotic suggestion is, okay, and then when you come back, we're going to be even deeper in hypnosis.
Cool. Yeah, cool.
As soon as they come back, they lie down. It's like, now we're even deeper than where we were before. And then all of the wisdom wants to come out even more. And it's like, yes, I love it when the universe does that. So this is how the higher self, for me, shows that this person needs to go a little bit deeper, but they'll make them go to the restroom, then come back, and let's go deep.
Yeah. You don't want to go too deep if you need to pee, so it's very smart.
That's exactly right. Because that's the other thing, Exie. They might get frightened by what they see, which very rarely happens because their higher self allows them to see what they're capable of dealing with.
Agreed.
But it's just a case of we need them to be at a nice sense of peace, so that, and nice and deep, so that they feel calm and they feel confident about what they're seeing and what's coming out.
Yeah, and not about what's coming out. Understood.
Exactly.
You've got some more pictures here. Can I have a look at another one? Because you're talking about galactic councils and things, and this feels a little bit galactic council-y. This is kind of
so
frightening.
Why
frightening? That feels like home. I'm looking at that going, that looks familiar. I've seen
like
that before.
you need to, anyone listening to this,
Oh
like,
my goodness.
I've just put an image on and it's like you've got to see it. You've got to see it. Charles, could you just describe what's in this? No, like
Now,
you really, there's a
yes.
lot going on. So have a crack at describing what's going on in this.
This is quite easy to explain.
Okay,
So,
good. Go.
No, it is. See around, if you look at the picture there, there's a lot of planets, there's moons,
Yes.
there's planets, and there's a whole circle of beings. There's like a sun, and there's cosmoses and multiverses in the center, and
Okay.
around the edges, you've
It
got
seems
people
flat,
standing.
like it's on a floor,
Yes,
projected on a floor. Yeah.
yes. Now, before we had you saw the man that was in the silver suit, and we
Yes,
had the
the
spaceship
auditor.
that was traveling through the sun. Remember
Yeah.
that?
Yep.
Okay. This is the result of the gathering of information from that being. It comes to the planetary councils.
Mm-hmm.
This is a collective of beings, okay, from the planetary councils coming together. What are we doing? How are we moving forward? Are planets like Earth, Venus, Mars ready to join us yet? Is their vibration high? What's happening there? What do we need to do to lift them up? Or is it a case of our other planetary systems struggling? How do we lift them up? Or do they need to leave the council? So that's what this is. This is a collective gathering. And they're actually looking at the multiverses and saying, okay, what's going on here? What's happening here? This is why sometimes it's a really interesting concept, but we get galactic beings that will come and check in on the planet. What's the vibration like at the moment? Where is this planet Earth at? Does that make sense? So they come out, and this could be you and I, okay? Because when we dream at night, we transmit information, okay? This could be us transmitting it back to our home planets, our higher selves that might be a galactic council or something to that effect. We transmit that information back, and it's like we're reporting back on what the situations on this planet are at that time. Does that make sense?
Are you calling me a snitch, Charles?
Oh, I'm calling everybody a snitch because we all do it, Michael. We all do it. But that's what this is. Okay. Now, again, you've heard of people that have been taken to the spaceships. Okay. You've heard of people that have been abducted. Okay?
Yeah.
And when they're abducted, it's like the galactic beings are doing experiments on these beings. But what they're actually checking in on is what's the DNA doing? What's the body doing? Okay. How is it reacting to? So look at it like this. A few years ago, we had the pandemic. Okay, how has the pandemic now affected the body? How is it affecting, the life on the planet? What this does is, and what these councils do, they're tapping it in. Okay, what do we now need to do to help this planet evolve even higher?
Wow.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
I find, particularly with that sort of thing, if we go back to Greys, one thing I've experienced with clients that don't know each other, and who knows, maybe they read the same books. I think it's really hard saying these people are from different parts of the planet.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, but they still saw a hypnotherapist. And, so there's some similarities there. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can't avoid that. But, I don't know that they're definitely not connected in any way. And they've had experiences in hypnosis with Greys and other beings. And the Greys have come across just as really matter of fact, getting the job done. Not bad, not nasty, not nice either. Like just really just there, just doing the job. And definitely like actual beings. So not necessarily robots, but just really robotic in how they do things.
It's a process. That's what you have to realize. It's a process. Right. They're just fulfilling the process.
Gotcha. Because they seem to not care. Sample. Yeah, they seem to not care so much about human suffering because they're like, yeah, but you're not a human anyway. You're bigger than that. So it's almost like they're dealing with the it's almost, I feel like a good way to describe it is, they're making a meal in the kitchen. It's like they don't have that much compassion for the lettuce. They recognize it's really important, but it's all part of the meal they're making. That's what you get from that. But then you get a lot of these other beings that, some of these beings in the pictures are like really similar to what's being described. They're very caring and they're very compassionate and show a lot of empathy. Like, is there different? So obviously there's different jobs with the different, maybe, I I don't know, do you say races of
think of it like
species
that,
or
galactic
whatever?
races. There'd be
Yeah, yeah.
differences, but that comes back to what I was saying before with the kinesiology couple, and I've got to find their
Yes.
names for you
Yeah.
because different races have different vibrations. They're all doing
Gotcha.
different things. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's where I do a lot of energy work, and I actually I'm really strict with boundaries and intention. Does that make sense? So I actually set my intentions that I'm not inviting any heavy energy, let's use that term, into my space. So I'm not going to get your grades that want to come and, pull the life out of people or drag people down into a heavy state. I'm going to get the beings that are more uplifting, that come from a place of how do I help? How can I empower you? Does that make sense? And lift that person up, because that's where I work. And trust me, I've had galactic beings, and I think I've told you in the last interview, the fingers are about this long with like ball bearings at their head. They're playing in people's heads.
Right.
And it's like we're doing surgery on the table. They get taken to a ship. They cut them open. They do what they have to do, but it's rewiring and it's uplifting these people. And trust me, the next day I get messages from most of my clients. It's like, I don't know what happened in that healing session yesterday, but I feel $1 million.
People say that too to me. They go, I don't know what happened in that session, but I feel great. I'm like, I don't know what happened either. I wasn't, I was here, but that wasn't me,
Correct.
Clearly.
But see how that works?
It's interesting.
I'm jealous. I haven't had many clients that have had connections with aliens. So bring it on. I'd like some experiences too. Yeah, this would be great.
And now that's a really good thing, because there's a lot of people that really are open and aware about aliens. Now, have you heard of Dr. Stephen Greer?
No.
Okay. He is an amazing man. He's a really amazing scientist. And you've heard of Close Encounters of the Third Kind, the movie?
Sure. Yeah.
For sure.
He has an app that you can purchase on the phone, and it's called CE5. It's Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind. And what that is enabling to do is you go into a meditative state and you actually call in the galactic beings, and you can see them. So, for example, on Facebook, there is a Victorian Australian page of CE5 enthusiasts, and they will organize a meetup every month, every 2 months, and they go into a dark sky location. They'll all sit in a circle and they'll all meditate together and say, bring it in, show us. And then you see vision of the stars, but it's not stars, it's galactic ships moving through the sky because they've called them in.
Awesome.
It's absolutely amazing. So he worked out that I can meditate and then call it in. So he's got this beautiful meditation that you can do. Now, there is a free streaming service. He used to be on that. I haven't checked to see if he's still on it. It's called Tubi, Tubi. Okay. Dr. Stephen Greer had lots of movies about galactic beings, aliens, and he is full of his main mission in his lifetime is about disclosure, telling the world what's actually happening. We've had connection with aliens, but nobody wants to make it known because they don't want to put the world in chaos or disarray, if that makes sense.
Well, the government recently admitted it, didn't they? Like that they've got aliens and they've been doing, and so that brings me, I got text a question by hubby who's listening in the background. He wanted to ask about, when we were talking about the government and the aliens, energetic beings giving information to them and then dropping it into other people. Why then, how are we supposed to progress if then the government keeps it from us, and why do they allow that to happen? Have you ever got any information about that?
Whose government? You're talking about the US government.
Like how the one that they're hiding them, they if they're giving information about technology or what they're doing there, or if they have connections with them, they can deal with whatever they're doing. So much is kept from us though, and that's what's been annoying everybody. And then we only just got told about it. It's like, yeah, we already knew. You're finally admitting it.
Yes.
And they're keeping things from us. So
yes,
how are we supposed to progress is the question. If we don't get everything shared, but then because, like you're saying, is it too much for all of us? Is what I'm assuming. But
the population would go into meltdown. If we had to fully disclose that there are beings walking amongst us, and trust me, there will be galactic beings walking amongst us that know how to mask this suit, okay, and put this suit on, and then off we go. The world would go into complete meltdown if there was a UFO over Washington, D.C. tomorrow. The world would go, oh my God, and it would be chaotic. So I understand why governments are not disclosing that information. Now, sometimes I don't want to open up a Pandora's box. I really don't want to open up a Pandora's box, but by not giving us the technology, hold your hat. By not giving us the technology is a way that they can control us. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
If we had the
Yes.
technology as soon as it was coming out, that frees us. That's liberating, especially if it's a positive technology. But you think of the
Well, that's
automobile.
always, but that's reading, just access to reading.
Yes.
I mean, that was pretty effective for hundreds of years, so or thousands of years, and it didn't do a great job of keeping women below men, but that was an attempt as well. Women can't go to school and stuff like that.
Yes.
It's it's always happened. So there's nothing new under the sun, I guess. With that sort of thing, it's just normal behavior.
So maybe
Um,
it's waiting for us to evolve more. So the more people on the planet will evolve, and the majority can handle the information, so then we can progress.
And that's what's actually happening now. This is what's, it was really interesting in 2020 because the world started to awaken. The
Yeah.
world started to awaken. So
Sure.
you'll see on Instagram or X or Facebook or whatever that more and more people are very open to more spiritual concepts. Okay. So they're open to, oh yeah, there's a galactic being. I have to be honest. I saw somebody yesterday posted on Instagram. Did you see these UFOs in Japan? There were 3 of them in the sky. There's photographic evidence. And it's like, yes. You've got to be very discerning though at the moment.
I don't
because
trust
of
anything.
AI.
Yeah, I
You know,
don't
and
trust
that's the
anything.
thing. That's the
I don't know
key.
what I'm looking at. Yeah, it's really
That's the
hard. But
key. You've got to
doesn't
be
mean
very,
it doesn't happen though.
that's correct, Michael.
Yeah, it doesn't mean it doesn't
That's
happen.
correct.
Yeah.
And that's why you've got to be really discerning now with any bit of information that comes your way, because it's a case of, is it doctored? Is it created just to make me feel this way? Does that make sense? But going back to the wisdom, governments don't want us to have the control. Look at the automobile, for example. The automobile really hasn't progressed too much in the 100 years. It took a fuel source. It's still taking a fuel source. We're at the moment going from a fuel source to electric to like a battery, but it hasn't really evolved much in that time.
No.
True?
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Yeah.
it's only been
There are
around
galactic
100 and
ships
something
flying.
years.
Yes, and there are galactic ships flying around that have a fuel source that we might even have on this planet that we could use, but it's being withheld from us. So yeah, I don't want to open a big box, but it's a control mechanism. They use what they need for defense purposes, and they give us the medical stuff and like the telephones and stuff like that.
There must be some form of people have to work it out themselves there, because I'm looking at this picture and I know I said it's frightening and you guys said, oh, it's not frightening, it's good, it feels like home. I guess I'm pointing more towards the true use of the word awesome, not, do you want to pay cash or card? Oh, awesome. Like actual awesome, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like if you've ever been in the ocean and just feeling the power of the ocean, the waves, and you're this tiny person on a boat, there is an awe-inspiring feeling just going, oh my gosh, wow. This feels like, just looking at this picture, that's like that. Pretend for a second this is real if you don't believe in it. That's like that times a gazillion, because you've got what looks like kind of normal size human height people, and then you've just got these beings in the background just staring down with big blue eyes that are the size of planets. Like you can't just sit there and look at that and just go, hey, those things look like they're probably pretty powerful. There's old mate Groot in the corner, Groot and Grootette, and some massive caveman dude. Like they look like they'd have no problem in controlling the United States government, if we're talking about government, the US government. Do you know what I mean? Like stopping them from just using it as weapons.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I don't think I don't know that someone else's government is more powerful than these beings that are in this picture. So there must be some kind of form of we can trickle something, but we can't interfere too much.
That's okay. I'm glad you said that. Planet Earth is how do I put this? The universe can't interfere in planet Earth. It's a planet of free will. So we are left to our own devices. So it's like it's a galactic law. Does that make sense?
It's a galactic shit show. That's what it is.
And that's exactly what it's becoming, Michael.
Yes.
So there's like a galactic law that
but it's home.
Planet Earth was created to be an experiment. Let's use that.
Right.
And it was created so that we could see how people evolve, how the animals evolve, how the planet evolves, what happens. Okay. And that's why there's a lot of galactics watching what we're doing, because what we're doing is shaping what happens on a bigger level in the multiverses, in the universes. That's where this is special. So I like what you say, because they can't interfere. Now,
Right.
agreements have been made. From what I can understand, from what I've listened to on YouTube and read and things like that, I feel like agreements have been made with the galactic federations and stuff like that that prohibit them from interfering with what's happening on the planet.
Okay.
So
So
that's
that,
why.
what about, so did the Anunnaki get their asses kicked for coming here and creating humans to mine gold? Because that sounds like a fairly decent break of that rule. And
And it
then
was.
if so,
It really was.
so was that like a stuff up, and then they're like, well, let's not wipe out the human race, let's turn this into an experiment? Is that
And
what
it
happened?
always has been an experiment, and that's what this is. The
Right.
Anunnaki came and they took over 450,000 years ago because their planet was dying. They took the gold because they needed the gold. That's why gold is such an important currency on this planet.
It's
Does
kind
that
of
make
weird,
sense?
isn't it? Yeah,
It's
there's
so weird,
lots
but
of
that's
other
why
things that are
gold is so
rare that
important.
people don't necessarily want to wear around their neck or
Yes.
whatever. Yeah.
But gold is important. And you see the Anunnaki is everywhere. You know, the cross is a sign of the Anunnaki, all of this sort of stuff. So the Anunnaki symbology is all the way through the planet, and it goes beyond. But that's what that is. They 450,000 years ago, they took an opportunity and it's like, right, let's go. And I don't think the Galactic Council wanted to interfere at that point in time, because it's like, okay, this might help the evolution of the planet. This then created mankind to a degree, okay? And then the galactics will come every now and then and look at the DNA structure of man. How do I need to improve that? How do I, so they're not interfering, but they might plant something in one person and see what that does genetically. This is why people get taken to ships. They've agreed. This is what they don't understand. There's an agreement before they're born that I'm going to go and experience these things, help people get their wisdom. Does that make sense?
One thing I need to like kind of throw out there and see if you've received any information about this is, because we're kind of still talking about two different things. So us as a being and us as a human being, right? So if we operate on another level, and also our consciousness is experiencing this as a human life, when did just human beings mining for gold turn into vessels for other levels of consciousness to experience?
Good question. From what I've read thus far and what I've listened
Yeah.
to from amazing channelings from the Pleiadians, that we were mining gold, and then what happened was it was creating that the Anunnaki were not able to create the miners, the workers, Lulu, they were called the Lulu. Okay. They weren't able to create the workers quick enough. So what they did was, and I think it was either Enki or Enlil, I can't remember which one it was, they created the human being that could procreate. So it took the pressure off the Anunnaki so that then they could procreate. What that started was a chain of consciousness that started to grow in the human being, because they could then start to do things for themselves and start to create for themselves. Does that make sense? And that's where the evolutionary part has grown.
So does something have to have?
They had no consciousness. It's like they had no soul beforehand. Does that make sense? What's happened
But
is,
how does that impact whether or not it can procreate or not?
it wasn't given the opportunity to procreate. So these soldiers, the Lulu, were created purely just to mine the gold out of, and it all started in Africa, all out of Africa, if that makes sense. Then what happened was one of them decided, this is taking too much energy for us to create these beings. We're going to give them the opportunity to then create for themselves. So then they gave us whatever it was. They must have known how to create, because they were great geneticists at that time. Excuse me. So they were creating that. And then it's like they created this being that could then create and feel, and then consciousness came about.
So was that then a free for all for other beings to go, cool, I'm going to be a human for a while? Because it's
No,
like
I
open vessels.
don't think that was the case. I think it was what the Anunnaki created. So they created a being on this planet at that time. Does that make sense?
So individually, it's just captured consciousness. So how does that work from a soul level then? And then any kind of evolution from the soul if it's just a single form of consciousness that's been accessed as a human?
That's an excellent question, and
Mm.
I have to be honest.
Oh,
I
no,
haven't had-
yeah,
No,
Charles,
I
answer
like
me
the way
now.
you-
it
No,
out
no,
loud.
that's I'm kind of
Yeah.
digging deeper into like, okay, well, yeah, how does it work on a spiritual level as well? Because I look at these beings and I think, well, you know, anything that has a start has an end. Anything that's born dies, right? So we've got all these beings in these
But
pictures as
that's
well.
okay. That's a
They
really
look identified.
3D. That's a real 3D concept. Anything that starts ends. Does that make sense? Because on a soul
That's all we
level,
know, yeah.
or on a soul level, we leave the vessel, the meat
Yeah.
suit behind, and the
Yeah.
soul
Mhm.
continues its consciousness
Mhm.
back in spirit, back in
Sure.
wherever it comes from, until it decides, do I want to come back into this form? Do I want to go to another planet, go into other form? Do I want to stay in soul state where I'm doing other things and I'm learning other things? So that's what this is.
That's my point. Is this soul state or is this another state? And there's a soul state that decides to be these beings. That's what.
Perfect. And that's a great question, because I look at these beings and it's like, okay, so for me, there's an element, soul state is a part of this, but that's also, I'm having another experience on another planet, in another body, having a different experience altogether.
So even that's not the soul.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because when I read books about the souls and its evolution and what happens here, it goes to a place in the sky or the universes, whatever it was, and it goes back to its soul circle. So I don't see this as being a part of the soul group as such. I see this as a galactic council. So I see this as being souls that have, okay, I'm having another experience. Having said that, these beings could be living for millions and millions of years.
Sure.
Does that make sense? So the
Different
Anunnaki,
time. Yeah.
we have 100 years of life. Okay, it's like 5 minutes for the Anunnaki. Okay, that's nothing for them. So they talk thousands and thousands of years, whereas we talk hundreds of years. Does that make sense? And that's what this could be in these beings. Okay. Now, I actually saw myself when I did my very first QHHD session.
Cool.
I saw myself on another planet, and it was actually like what you showed in the very first picture with the.
Let's go back to it.
With the this one, the centaur.
Deserty,
because when
kind
I
of.
went to the planet, and that was the first life this woman showed me, it's like, oh wow, here we go. I had metal legs, and it was like liquid metal legs, and I'm looking at the planet, but it was red dirt. And I was like, oh my goodness gracious me, what is it? And I'm looking at my body, and I was like, this machine, okay? But I knew I wasn't from this planet. I knew I wasn't from this world, and that was fine. I was okay with that, because it's like I went with the intention, show me more, show me where I'm from, show me, other aspects. And they took me to a planet where there was red dirt, and I was like, oh, it's all dead. This planet is dead. And it's like, why are you bringing me here? Why do I need to see this? And then they showed me, this is like, because you struggled with communication. You struggled with communicating something relatively important at a high level for this planet, and you caused the demise of the planet.
Oh,
Now,
wow.
big,
Oops.
yeah, big burdens I carried for that planet, But they had to show me that, and I understood that, because my higher self was trying to show me in this lifetime, it's time to communicate. It's time to get it out there. It's time to talk your truth. It's time to put it out there. No more fear. Get on with it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because look at the consequences that happen. So this was one aspect, and I was seeing like a lifetime where it was just red sand and the planet was dead, and I had a very big part to play in that. Another lifetime they showed me was on this planet. And it was really interesting, because a lot of the viewers might understand a thing called the pyramids. Okay, in Egypt. So they showed me, I was fascinated. I've always been fascinated with the pyramids, always, ancient Egypt, all of this sort of stuff. And it's like, okay, here we go from the dead planet, and we're coming into a lifetime, and I'm in Egypt, and I'm a woman, and I'm standing on the banks of the Nile, and I'm looking up at the sky, and this woman's saying to me, what do you see in the sky, Charles? It's like, oh, there's a sun. Okay, there's the sun. It's like midday, but there's a sun in the sky. And then I look the other way, and it's like, but there's another sun in the sky. There were two suns going. And she goes, oh, what is this? And I said, well, this is the sun that's on the, the center of the solar system as we know it. But this sun that looks like the sun is actually an alien spaceship. And what they're doing for us, we were sitting on the banks of the Nile River, and it was, I'm going to say this to you and your viewers, it was mainly women, and I was here, right? So I was sitting straight in the middle, but then off to each side on the other side of the Nile River were other women. So we were positioned all the way along the river. And what this did was the sun, the second sun that was there, was helping us use telepathy to move the pieces of the pyramid along the Nile River until we got them to the pyramids. And that's how they moved these huge boulders. And I was
Wow.
like, this is phenomenal. This was absolutely amazing. This is how they moved them along the river. Because when I went to Egypt in 2019 and you see these stones, you think, how did anybody move these? How did anybody? They're so heavy. We can't do it in this day and age. We think we're smart. How did they do it 4,000 years ago? Does it make sense? Then you go into the pyramids and you see there are pictures of galactic beings on the walls in the pyramids. This is what we have to realize as people. We've always had visits. You go to, Easter
And by
Island.
the way, people, Charles has been there and he does tours. So it's not like I've heard that there's pictures, like he's been there.
Yeah. And we were blessed that we got to rent the Great Pyramid and meditate in the pyramid. So the wisdom was coming through.
Yeah.
But you look at Easter Island. Remember those heads on Easter Island?
Well, the whole bodies. Yeah.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Their whole bodies. And these are the giants. So all the way through recorded history on this planet, you'll see that there's references to giants being on the planet. This is what the Anunnaki were here with. They were here in that they created like the giants and stuff like that. So this is what we have to realize. There's always been a galactic influence on this planet that has helped us along and helped us move forward as a race, if that makes sense. So it's been very, very interesting. And when I saw that in that hypnosis about me being on the planet and then me helping them build the pyramids, it was like, wow, okay, that all makes sense in a weird way. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, at least to you, which is really important. But that's what this sort of stuff is important for. It's actually, one client's experience for another client isn't going to help them at all. They're very, very much exactly what you need now, which is interesting. You look at the higher self and what that means too. It all kind of, it's all crazy then anyway. So everything's possible, right? Can I go to another picture as well? Is this like looking at that whole raising vibrations of planets and things, or what's going on here?
Yeah, as you can see, there's like a whole, think of it like this. We live in the Milky Way galaxy. Okay, so we're in the Milky Way galaxy. Okay, so see that you can see that's like a purpley one that's in the picture there.
Okay,
this is one of the universes. So there are multiple universes. So that's why we have the word multiverse. It's not just a universe. It's not just one. There is so much more. So this is a representation, if you have a look at it, of like a globe or a sphere, let's use that, with multiple universes within it. But you can see there are timelines and there are like the shapes, the lines that go around and around it, because they're the wormholes that take you to other multiverses, to other galaxies in other, dimensions of time and space. And that's what this was, because this being that was in this hypnosis session would travel in his ship through the sun, out of our solar system into other multiverses and things like that.
Because the suns just look like nodes on these lines. That's all kind of connected throughout.
Or the sun's in the Milky Way galaxy that you can see there as well. But these are doorways. Think of it like that. These are doorways into other multiverses. And this is what I do get quite a lot when I'm doing a QHHT session. People are saying to me, we're traveling, or somebody might be just assigned to a particular planet. I'm a planet Earth and I'm the consciousness of the planet. I'm feeling the vibration of the planet. I'm here to lift it up. Okay, great. But then you get other people that are like, I'm in a ship. Okay, you can't see the ship, but I'm traveling to this planet. I'm hiding. I'm hiding behind the moon and I'm watching your planet, or I'm traveling to other planets. I had one beautiful customer say to me, my role in this multiverse is to go to each of the planets and take samples of the trees and the botany that's existing on each of the planets. And she goes, I've got living samples in every, I don't know what her like laboratory or whatever that might be, but where she's based, I've got samples from every planet and the botany from every planet there. So
this is like that recently too.
What's that?
I had a client that had a very similar sounding life actually not long ago. Because they were testing plants for different planets and then testing with different atmospheres to see what would work where. And
that's it. That's becoming
it's like a multi-dimensional pathology courier. You're just getting samples from all just Have they got little
This is-
motorbikes as well? They cruise around on, so
I know,
you get in and
it's
out of
spaceships
traffic
that
quicker.
the best part is it's spaceships you can't see. And I said, well, how can we not see these? How do we not? Because you people are, because we're addicted to screens, you know, these things.
What,
You're
people
not
looking down, we didn't look up.
That's exactly right, Michael, because everybody's
No.
doing this. They're all doing this. And she says, we hide in clouds. You don't
Right.
see it, but we hide in the clouds. And because people now, and I don't know if you might have customers like this, Exie and Mike, and you might have customers that are in anxiety or depression. So what that means is they're not present.
Right.
They're thinking 3 weeks down the road. They're thinking about the past. They're not actually here now. So they're not actually paying attention to what's actually happening around them. Does that make sense?
So I guess, yeah, it's kind of your filter as well. So if you're looking through the filter of the past or your imagination into the future, you're not going to see everything that is in front of you in the now. So they're saying because of that. Okay. And
that's also where that person's frequency and vibration allows them to be. Does that make sense? So when you're in anxiety and depression, your light quotient drops. Okay. So when your light quotient drops, you're not going to see things at a higher level. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
When your light quotient's higher and you're holding more light, you're then able to see, oh, hold on a minute, that looks a bit odd. That looks a bit, you know.
It's like it's like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, but like on a spiritual level.
Yeah.
yeah. So they've got more access to that high vibrational stuff.
The more light you can hold, which means the more open you are, and the less you are in fear and anxiety and depression and things like that, the more light you can hold and the more space you can hold, but then up you go. So that allows you to see more and do more. You'd be surprised. I often drive and I go, there you are. I can see you in the sky. You know, there's one there because that cloud looks different to all of the other clouds. And you go, there you are. It's really interesting. I know. I feel like sometimes people think, oh, Charles, you must be so crazy. And it's like, but I love my life because I actually see things more than what others do. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's interesting. It's really interesting. And when you play with galactic beings in a healing space, actually, you'd feel this. You know, all you feel for your customers is love.
Yes.
All you really want to feel is this love and this beautiful vibration that wants to help them be their best versions of themselves. And, you know, it's not for everybody in this lifetime to be able to connect with aliens. It might not be where they're at. It might not be not where they need to achieve.
That's right.
But all I feel like these amazing energies want people to realize is there's more. Okay. From what you're seeing in the world, there's more. There's more possibility. There's more reality. Now, we see, you see these movies. Look at movies, Star Wars, Star Trek, all of that sort of stuff, okay? This is what we said before, Exie, you know, the galactic beings are dropping consciousness into people. They're dropping seeds, okay? People write books about them. It becomes sci-fi. But what they're actually seeing is reality on a different level. Somebody's channeled this information. Let's create a film about this. You've got E.T., you've got Alien, you've got all of these different films, you know, that are showing us where the contact has been.
Men in Black?
See?
Joke.
You'll see it.
Maybe.
It's there, but it's there. Do you know what I mean? And this is what we have to realize. They're showing us things to our faces, but most people don't see it.
Yes.
Yeah, there's truth in a lot of things, even on a subtle level anyway.
Yeah, they're they're mentally preparing us for it a little bit.
Yes, correct.
Or we're connecting to something that's deeper than that. So like it's just So
this whole subject is very interesting because you're going to, it's such a big subject. And you're going to come into it from different aspects, you know. Okay, you've got the greys that are taking people and people are feeling unsafe and unloved and all of that sort of stuff. Then you've got the other people like me that are blessed that I might be reaching into a higher level of the galactic consciousness. And it's like they're just giving us love and understandings and listenings. But what I want people to be able to do is just like, okay, where am I sitting in my life? What do I feel like if I'm connecting with these things? What do I want to connect with? What do I want to do? I listened to this amazing woman. I think I told you about her last time, Barbara Marciniak. And she channels the amazing Pleiadians. And I buy her lectures every month to listen to the wisdom because these beings are from the future. They're ahead of us in time. And they're coming back in time to talk to us, to help us raise our vibration, raise our consciousness. And, you know, the most amazing messages that you get from these people: have more fun, have joy,
Yes.
laugh, don't take life so seriously, all of that sort of stuff. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
And this
it's
is a
just-
great way to pull it together as well, because you know some people could be overwhelmed as well and go like, "Oh, so what does all this mean?" and everything. It comes back to that a lot of these simple things are actually true as well, and you can try it for yourself. Like, yeah, these things that come through, try it for yourself. You know, it's
Correct.
like a feedback loop. If you can raise your vibrations or raise your energy, however you want to say it, there's an attraction that comes to you, and there's also that happiness drives a whole lot of other things like health and everything else. So, you know, I think
Correct.
it's the messages that are coming through. Maybe don't get as freaked out by what, but look at the message that comes through as well,
good.
and
Good
how that
tip.
can help us
And the
together as
feeling
well.
that you get if you're
Yeah.
connecting with these beings, what
Yeah.
is the feeling you're going to get?
That's
Does
it.
that
Yeah.
make sense?
Yeah. Find the truth in it. Not don't be so. It's interesting. Uh, Joe Rogan used to talk a lot about his DMT experiences, and saying how when he'd have, so that's dimethyltryptamine, when he'd go and have this dimethyltryptamine, all of these beings would come and they'd be like showing him stuff, and they kept telling him, like, stop being so amazed, like just listen. Do you know what I mean? It's like,
Yes.
and he was like, I couldn't help it. Like, I'm in a completely, I couldn't even put into words this completely different dimensional space I'm in. And they're
Yes.
like, stop being so surprised. Like, you know, we're happy to see you. You know, we want to show you stuff and give you presents. And they're like, stop being in so much awe.
And that's the thing,
frustrated because
because
we don't have much time. You know, isn't that interesting that it's that same thing again? Like, and you find that with anything in the world. I don't want to use the A word with aliens, but forget interdimensional or terrestrial beings. Look at anything in your life. You can lose the forest from the trees. You know, like
Yes.
you can miss the point of what's going on. So
Yes.
it's kind of like a stop and smell the roses bit as well
Bingo.
with everything, right? Yeah.
Bingo. Stop
Yeah.
and smell the roses. Be present every day. Does that
And
make
if
sense? Be
if
present.
this stuff fires you up and you're kind of interested, like explore it, right?
Yeah.
If it doesn't, and you're like, this is like completely full of shit. These people don't know what they're talking about. It's not for you, and don't worry about it. But yeah, like explore it,
Read.
get into some
Read.
books, watch some videos,
And
see someone like Charles.
Yep.
there's so much
have
that
his
you can
experience.
read.
Yeah.
There is so much that you can read.
Yeah.
And if you're interested, go on to Tubi or YouTube and just Dr. Stephen Greer. He's the most amazing man.
Wow.
And he will open up to you just the possibilities that what is real. Does that make sense? And
Yeah.
the key I want to say to people is
Mm.
please don't have fear. Okay, come from a place of love. Fear just drops
Yeah.
your vibration. So when
Yep.
you're fearful, you're scared, you're going to come into a lower vibration.
Yep.
Come from a place of love. So
Yep.
again, with my class this week 1, they were all newbies and they didn't see anything and they couldn't do anything. By week 7, they were talking to these galactic beings, giving them boundaries. If you're going to tell me off, I don't want you here. Nick off, you know. But if you're going to come and help my customer with love, you're more than welcome. So it's amazing the transformation that you can create if you're open. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But the keys to life are, and living on this planet at this time, this is the most important thing: joy, happiness, love.
Amazing.
What it comes down to. Simple.
Yep.
And technically we're in a galaxy, so you guys are also galactic beings. So, you know, it's lovely to speak with you two galactic beings today.
We all are.
I gotta say, can you imagine you do go to one of these remote places and you're up stargazing, you've got an app where you meditate and call in intergalactic beings. You'd have to be driving home going, what happened to my life? You'd have to be like this. That would be so
what
crazy.
it does is,
I'm not saying bad,
is,
but you'd have to
no.
admit, like, wow.
But it shows you then, if you see things in the sky, like with these
Yeah.
amazing groups, and these groups are all over the world. You
Interesting.
just go
Yeah,
onto
yeah,
Facebook,
clearly.
CE5. And if you do that, it starts to show you what's important in life. What can I let go of that's mundane and that's boring? Whereas I know that there's so much more now. Does that make sense? And that's
Yeah.
what that does. So
Yeah,
that
cool.
I agree with you 100%. You go drive and think, what am I going to see? What am I going to do? And you come back, it's like, oh my God, that was amazing. Do I need more of that? What do I need? Or am I in shock? Do I need to process that? What is it?
Yeah. Yeah. Exciting. So
It's
explore.
really exciting. It's really, and people take from what they need. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Take from this what you need. Take what resonates with you. If it doesn't resonate with you, that's fine too.
It's not for you. That's cool.
That's exactly
And that's
right.
cool
It's
as
fine.
well. And that doesn't make you lesser. It's just not for you, at least now.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Or
Yeah.
it's just not the time for you, or this
Yeah.
is not the life for you. That's all it is. It doesn't mean you're disconnected. No, it just means you've got other priorities that you need to fulfill in this lifetime, and this is just not one of them.
Mhm. Mhm.
Very
Amazing.
special.
Amazing.
Love it.
We're going to keep going, Exie. You got to wrap it up. Give me some wisdom.
That's the wisdom. We've got so much wisdom.
You're an intergalactic
I've hardly
being.
spoken today because I've just been taken all in. I love it.
You're an intergalactic being. Give us something.
We're all intergalactic beings.
I know, but it's fun saying
Did you
that.
get that from that? Did you not listen to that whole conversation?
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's just you're not on the council. Well, you might be. Shit,
Well,
you
that's why
might
I
be.
felt like,
I'm gonna have to be
no,
so
I
much
just
nicer
would
to you.
be.
Yes.
I felt very
Oh, no.
familiar.
You'd be
Been there
surprised
before.
how
Oh,
many
no.
customers
You're that
come
big
and they
purple
sit
thing.
on a council. You would be so
Right.
surprised.
Oh, geez. I'm scared of people that sit on school councils, let alone
Oh, yes,
the
you gotta watch
intergalactic council. So
Yes.
that's
Yeah.
All right, wrapping it up.
yes, yes.
Thank you, Charles, our favorite intergalactic being.
Pleasure.
Being
It's a
on our
pleasure as
show.
always.
Yeah.
That's it for another episode, but that doesn't have to be the end of the conversation.
Feel free to leave your comments on our YouTube channel, or for those podcast listeners, you can email us at mickandthepsychic@gmail.com to leave your feedback or questions.
I'm a certified hypnotherapist and timeline regression therapist. If you wish to contact me to explore the source of an issue you're facing, just book a session at hearnhypnosis.com.au and include the promo code MATP for 10% off. You can contact me on Insta and Facebook at hearnhypnosis.
Check out my website at optimisticxavier.com.au if you feel you'd like to connect with me as a psychic medium, spiritual mentor, or intuitive coach. Include the promo code MATP for 10% discount. You can also find me on Insta, LinkedIn, and Facebook.
We look forward to connecting with you again next time as we attempt to leave no stone unturned.
Bye.
All right, cool. I reckon that should be okay.